All together, start here with Kenneth.
Oh, 1,
2.
3, 4,
5, 6.
Great. You sit up, Caleb. You're fine.
Oh, he's just relaxing.
All right.
We live in a very interesting time when it comes to our perception of comedy and satire and sarcasm and everything else. Some people today would say that comedy goes too far, like with Daniel Tosh, or that it doesn't go far enough, like with a lot of the late night shows with Conan O'Brien, and I think that's Jimmy Fallon. I don't watch those. Anyway, people say that goes too far or doesn't go far enough, and they're both right in their own ways. We've all seen these type of people on the internet. The people who are looking just to get a reaction out of you, and they're the offenders. They're just going to say the meanest, dark-spirited thing to get a reaction out of you. And the offendees, the people who are just looking to get offended. They're searching the internet and just making a fuss out of anything that you say at all. And in a way, they're both right and wrong. I think comedy should stay alive, but they shouldn't act in this way. A great comedian, George Carlin, actually did once say that comedy doesn't work unless somebody gets offended, and that's very true. Puns are a mockery of modern day language. Funny faces are a mockery of people who look funny. And sometimes this can go a bit too far, sometimes it doesn't go far enough. Take the example of this. There's truth in pain. When you look at that Tom and Jerry cartoon, you notice you can see the impact of where it hits. You can see the rippling of the hammer going out. And that's funny. That's slapstick. There's truth in pain. But then you look at another piece of evidence called the Smurfs, and whenever there's slapstick or anything in there, it's not funny. You don't see the impact. It's as if, imagine like this. There's a piece of Play-Doh here. If I punch it, my fist will leave an impact. And you can clearly tell what just happened. But if I were to punch it and then mold it around with my hands, you couldn't tell what it was anymore. You wouldn't be able to see the original punch. And that's a good example here. With the Tom and Jerry cartoon, you're still going to see that imprint after that hammer comes off his knee. With the Smurfs, once they hit their face and stand back up again, their face will look the exact same as when they hit the ground. When slapstick works, you can see the tragedy. There's an old formula of comedy is tragedy plus time. But there is such a thing as going too far. David Chappelle at the Laugh Factory used the N-word and other curse words in a joking, jovial manner to make fun of social prejudice or to insult those who are racist. However, there was another gentleman at the Laugh Factory named Richard Kerman who had unfortunately used the exact same terms in a very hurtful way to a heckler in the audience, calling him a dumb mother. You get it. But then there are such things as too soon, like with Gilbert Gottfried. There were several tsunamis that hit Japan, and only about a month later, he made jokes about that. That got him into deep trouble, because we've all seen Titanic jokes or Abraham Lincoln jokes. But if you were to make those jokes a couple of minutes later after that happened, people would be offended or hurt. Heck, it actually cost Gilbert Gottfried his job with Affleck voicing the Duck from those tweets alone. But there is such a thing as bad taste comedy, and some people thrive off that. South Park and Family Guy are two great examples of that. South Park, however, does it much better, where it is applying logic and reason into a world with no logic or reason to it, when you really look at it. But in Family Guy, it's the exact opposite. It's essentially a mean, bitter person in a mean, bitter world, so more people will lean towards South Park than Family Guy from that main reason. Of people are going to kind of want to see you trying to add logic and reason to it when there can't be put any. Like Monty Python. When you see the killer rabbit, that's trying to put logic of the characters thinking, it's just a rabbit. It can't hurt us. Go take care of it. And then it pouncing on one of the knights and killing him. That was funny because you didn't expect that to happen. You thought that it was just going to be a cute little bunny. Oh, what did I just do? This is comedy right here. I'm suffering. There we go. But now we also have to come into PC culture. Speedy Gonzales, an old Looney Tunes character, was taken off because people considered him too offensive or a racial stereotype. Guess who didn't care? Freaking Mexicans. They loved him. There was an actual petition done by a group in Houston of Mexican Americans saying, we want Speedy back. Because it's just a cartoon. It wasn't making fun of any Mexicans. In fact, he was the protagonist of almost every cartoon he was in. He was the one being attacked by some other character. And then you also have another person, Jerry Seinfeld, and just out of pure curiosity, who here has seen Seinfeld? Am I alone here? No, I'm not. Good. He once made a joke so mild, but yet it managed to offend so many people that he was physically banned from going to certain colleges in the US. I mean, dear God, if you find that offensive, they must have flipped when they saw Jared Leto come out on the stage. Anyway. There's also another incredibly funny skit that Key and Peele did about 2 years ago, making fun of that very thing. A black man, a gay man, and a woman are sitting with their boss who is trying to see if his speech would offend anybody. And before he even says anything about his speech, they begin raising their hands and making points like saying, I'm offended. Are you saying this? Are you saying that? And by the time he gets to the speech, his first line is, a Chinaman, a Polak, and an Arab will walk into a bar, and they're all fine with it. They lean in and smile as they're waiting for this joke, because they're not the ones being victimized here. Even though before it, anything he said was, guess what? An attack on them. Heck, even Sarah Palin at one point had made jokes about her being a feminist was the reason people were making fun of her. Yet clearly there were other reasons for us to make fun of her when she was saying that people should speak American whenever they come to this country. Also, this is comedy right here. The fact that I'm having to walk back and forth every time, that's me suffering to where I would have loved just to be able to have a clicker. And also, I've also realized that comedy can actually bring people together and even inform them. John Oliver and Stephen Colbert are two incredible people because they report the news in a funny satirical manner where they add common sense to it. And another question really quick, how many of you actually read comics? Recently, Marvel actually did this. At the end of an Ultron comic, they released a Deadpool short. Very small, about 6 or 7 panels. But its message is so huge that I recommend you just watch it really quick. It's a minute long, but its message is clear and it's beautiful. But they still use comedy in it to help it get through. If it would load.
Is the sound working?
I don't think so, but it's a comic strip, so it won't hurt to read.
How much longer?
Not long, it's like 20 seconds at most. See? Marvel used comedy with Deadpool to even push a message of, it's not worth it, find some help. If you feel this way, don't hide it. And comedy in this way is brilliant. Ignore that. Comedy is brilliant in that way of it can still inform and use its own humor. Granted, if these videos did require sound, but let me just give the gist of it.
Final sentence.
Comedy can be offensive, yes, it can hurt, it can even alienate, but it's better than the alternative, a steady, slow diet of just cookie-cutter mush that isn't funny at all. Demand to be challenged, demand to be treated like logical thinking adults, and raise your kids to be the same. Don't let comedy die out this way.